Oh, I'm feeling much more energetic than yesterday, but I definitely didn't get nearly as much sleep as I did yesterday. So, just one of those interesting things. Let's take a look at these settings for collision. So we have, where the hell is camera? So we have collision presets. For like spectator and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, this is important. So what does our sweep sphere actually do with physics utils? Yeah, that can be true. I don't see the default object channels. Like where the hell are the default object channels? I want to change stuff associated with them. This is upsetting. Like, how do I define the freaking... Like, we have the channel here, and the channel is gonna... How do I define what I want? Like... this isn't helping me at all. Like, how are these terrain things associated with terrain down here? Are they just associated by default, kind of like this? So broke SD, I have no idea what you're talking about. So where... Like, this thing takes a channel, but it's like, how is the channel hooked up to the collision? Like, there's no direct correlation between, like, okay, terrain and the terrain presets. No, I haven't broke something. Like, we have a mapping here, but like, how the hell in the game does... I guess we need the collision response parameters. Can we just not call Geom Sweep Multi? Is that... This is just silly. Like, I should definitely be able to... Like, we've got these response lookups for these collision profiles, and we're getting response to channels, so it's F collision response container. So I guess the response parameters here actually have a collision response on them, which I can set. So if I do a sweep sphere, can this please just stop doing all the stupid things? We don't want a channel, we want... an F collision response container. I wonder if I should just be getting the actual response parameters that we have set, or if I should be using the collision object itself. If it's just these spheres and other things, we should probably be grabbing it from the channel. So that's going to be the first one in the group. So I should be able to set it that way. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do a sweep test with a specific object type. What is this? Sweep sphere? Yeah. Well, we didn't change the actual definition. Well, I guess we just have to wait. Of course, we gotta recompile everything because we changed the physics utils H. So we're actually going to have to set one of these collision channels up properly. Alright, let's go to our project settings. Collision. So I guess we should make a new one called camera. Collision enabled should be what, query only? The object type should be literally that's all they've got. That's so stupid. Those are the only things we got in our drop down is just that. So I guess we're just gonna go with I guess our destructible is gonna be, we're gonna overload that. And basically we want to ignore everything except the terrain, which will be a blocking hit. It's interesting that ECC camera exists, but it actually doesn't exist at the same time. So destructible is what we're using for this thing. Alright, so we're going to do for hit result hit and hits. If hit dot be blocking hit, then basically what we want to do is let's say the current position equals start pause plus end pause minus start pause. Yeah, I guess we're gonna need the direction. So it's going to be distance times so it's going to be distance times direction, and we're actually going to subtract a small float from the distance. Alright, we'll see what this does for our camera. Basically, our camera now will try to sweep a sphere where it is, and if it collides with something, it won't be able to penetrate. And of course, this is going to have massive issues with platforms that are just in the way. But we can do a few more tests. Alright, that makes sense. Need to save the X coordinate. We're zooming way far in there when we shouldn't have. Well, it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Oh, it's because we're not using the blocking hit distance. So how exactly do I want to determine if we can move to a specific location? Like, it's going to be a series of line traces, I think. Or a series of sweep traces. And if enough of them succeed or something like that, then you can move over. Otherwise, you shouldn't move in a certain direction. Yeah, I'm just sorry, I'm silent. I'm just thinking about all the stuff that I'm gonna need here. Like we're gonna need the float. So we want to add like I guess a camera penetration distance to the camera, a terrain penetration distance to the camera, so that there's like a certain amount of terrain that we can go into. We'll see how that works. Alright, so it'll be like allow penetration, and if not allow camera penetration, then do all this stuff. Alright. And then how are we going to... We want to basically sweep towards the terrain, but I want to reset the camera basically so that it can go through something if it needs to. So kind of like, don't go any higher or whatever. But we need it to kind of ghost through things after a certain amount of time. I guess we could have like a certain box or something, like if it's far enough, then we move towards the current position regardless. mean, that's kind of... It's getting closer to what I want. Because, like, all of a sudden the camera stops. And that is pretty cool. Like, all of a sudden, like, you know that's a wall. And that's definitely something that I want. It's like, boom. There's a wall there. You can't go any farther. Alright, so there's definitely a kernel of truth down in this collision stuff, which is something we're going to want. So that's encouraging. I need to take a very quick break, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Alright, so what is a good way to mathematically determine if we can penetrate one of these walls? So what we've got basically is here's our actor, and we basically want a collision object, which is where the camera is And the reason we had that like circle there is because not only do we have a downward angle to our camera, but our camera's a little bit above. But I think we want to take our camera Z, perhaps. No, we want to take our Good afternoon, Lucas. I think we're going to want to take our camera Y and our followed entities Z. So we would basically be like right here, and if we're looking over, we're gonna cast over. And I'm trying to think exactly how we want kind of the camera to work. So like with a flat wall here, we would just hit the wall and stop. With a slope, we would hit this thing, and then I guess if we move normal to it, we would move the camera like up. I mean, we could just like stop the camera, but if we moved the camera up by a certain amount, that could also be interesting because it would naturally tend to lift the camera up if you're running up slopes. And we'd basically want to, like if we had to figure out a blocking hit, we're gonna have to do some stuff here, because I mean, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could have actual geometry that blocks the camera. That's one thing we could actually do, is be like, well, this is a camera blocking piece of geometry. The camera can't go through it. Which is not an awful plan, to be honest. Have all the platforms be just like, you know, normal terrain, and then have an actual camera blocking terrain preset for collision. And then we could have like camera stuff there with snapping and whatever the hell. The other thing would be to do multiple tests, I guess. Like if we did a ray test, and then we're like, okay, and then we did another test, and we kept going. It's like instead of doing a blocking hit, we did a non-blocking hit. Not really what we'd want, though, because basically what we'd want is... it's not good. It'd probably be better to have stuff that the camera can't penetrate. The issue becomes like if a player is up here and the camera is down here, what happens? Well, the camera would kind of scoot over the edge. It would like move. It'd be trying to move to like its wanted position, and it would kind of move normal to the surface. Naturally kind of hit off the edge and move up or something. You know, I can move it in component form. So it would try to move up, and it would be able to move up and all that. But if we had like a slope, I mean, the camera just wouldn't penetrate, so if the camera wanted to go over there, it wouldn't. And if you're running here, the camera would kind of move up. There wouldn't be a problem if we had like kind of a trap for the camera. Well, I guess if the player can't move through it, the player can't actually do much. But if the player jumped up and like the camera was over here. So I guess we have to start at the player and cast over to see where we can go, and we basically, if the player clears this, like we're casting over to the right, and we would just, you know, hit against this wall. So I guess it's literally like a blocks camera thing. We might want a collision channel just for camera blocking geometry. So what can we use for that? I mean, one way to differentiate would be like there are things that are terrain and things that are the environment, and terrain blocks it. So like platforms and other things would not be terrain, they would be the environment. And terrain is stuff that you can never penetrate. So we can use what we already have. Alright. So what I need to do is I need to change all these little platforms here. I want these to be environment. So environment body. So those are all terrain, so the camera shouldn't be able to penetrate it. Alright. So let's exit this thing. We're going to use our... Alright, the start position is going to get the actor transform here, the start pause dot... I guess we want to keep the same direction. Oh man, this is not exactly what we want in some ways. Because we're trying to get the distance, really, I believe, is what we're... So basically, if this is our terrain and this is our character, and that's their position, our camera is up here. What we want to do is take this, we want to figure out the distance here, and then we want to actually add it to here. So what we're doing is we're taking the start position dot, I guess dot y is going to be the followed actor dot y. So we'll do that. The start pause X and Y will be there. The direction is going to need to be the direction from what the camera wanted direction. So it's going to be our Are we just casting? I mean, maybe we should actually just be taking... Ah, man. I'm not exactly sure what we want with this. Because this isn't exactly true. Like, if we do it based on this, like, we're not going to get the right positions. Are we? Because this is going to be like, how do we know this position right there? That position is like the current position of the camera. But that's not always going to be accurate, because as soon as we move this position, like the next frame, like we encountered something, so we moved this guy a little bit out, it's gonna move the position over. you know, this vector is not going to work anymore. I guess maybe my drawing is incorrect. What I have actually is this. So this is like the position that the camera is. And what I want to do is I want to cast a ray out here and then move this thing out like so by a radius. So what I should be doing is the magnitude is the difference between the followed actor and the actual thing. So you're getting some sleep, Lucas? Is that what you're saying? Because sleep is important. So have a good one. Alright, so basically our direction vector is going to be